We've got some beef on the menu today. That's right, we're gonna be doing some chuck roasts. We're gonna be giving them some great rub. We're gonna be smoking them up out on the pit barrel cooker. We're gonna be adding some great barbecue flavor to these to let these finish so that we can make some barbecue beef sandwiches. So we'll get to those chuck roasts in just a minute, but first I want to get a sauce ready that's going to go on these barbecue beef sandwiches at the end. Something that's just a little bit cool, that's going to be nice and refreshing on it, but with a little bit of a bite. So we're going to be making a peppered horseradish mayonnaise. Now we're starting with about 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. Go ahead and use your favorite mayonnaise. To this I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of a coarsely ground black pepper, and we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of a prepared horseradish. And we're going to mix this up. I can already smell the horseradish. Really want to get that pepper mixed in there so you don't have any clumps of it. Take a quick little taste here. Ooh, pepper and horseradish to me go perfect, just that double bite. All right, I'm gonna cover this. This is gonna go in the refrigerator, and let's move on to our chuck roasts. So what I'm working with today are 3 small chuck roasts. These are all under 2 pounds. Really couldn't get any bigger. Usually I can find them in at least the 4-pound range, but you know, beef's a little hard to come by in certain cuts right now in certain sizes, but these are gonna work great. These are USDA choice. 2 of them I'm gonna do specifically for these barbecue beef sandwiches. The 3rd one's gonna be for something else, but they're all gonna go on there together. Now you can use any kind of rub you want on these. I'm choosing a pair of rubs that I'm gonna use today. One is Bailey's Ultimate Rub, and I'll put a link to that in the video description. This is gonna be my base rub. It's a good SPG type rub, good flavor. Remember to get those edges too. These are choice, but they have some good marbling in them. The second rub that's gonna go on top of these is a Carolina Pit Powder from Stephen Reschland. And this has a little bit more of that sort of barbecue-y flavor, smokiness, little bit of heat. All right, I'm good with that. Let's go fire up the PBC and get these on. All right, the pit barrel cooker is up to temp. That was some pecan wood I put on it when I got it going. Let's get these chuck roasts on. People always ask, why do you have the hanging rods in there if you're not hanging anything? They're part of the venting system. The intake vent is set to your particular elevation, your altitude, and those holes for the hanging rods, they restrict the airflow a certain amount. Just gonna get our chuck roasts going here. I'm gonna go ahead and add a temperature probe here. Let's get our hanging rods back in and get smoking. Now these chuck roasts are gonna smoke today until they're tender. The first part of that's gonna get us to about 150, 160 degrees, and then we're gonna wrap them. 2 of them are gonna go in a foil pan with some moisture, some flavors, and the other one, that separate one's gonna be wrapped in foil. The PBC, when everything is set just as it is, generally runs between 275 and 300, pretty much rock solid the whole time. These chuck roasts are probably gonna finish somewhere above 200 degrees internal, but again, it's about that tenderness. So we'll know once it's all wrapped up and we get that final check at the end before we end up getting this ready for barbecue beef sandwiches. So I'll bring you back when it's time to wrap these. All right, we are only 1.5 hours into this cook and we are already up in the 160s. With these small chuck roasts, that can happen. It moves very quickly and the stall can be pretty small. So I really don't want to miss it. We may not get the bark development that we normally would get on a larger chuck roast, but I want to give these a quick check and almost certainly we're going to wrap them now. Ooh, our color's looking good. I did slightly adjust this temperature probe after we started today. Didn't film that, just needed to adjust it a little bit. Let's do a quick check with the thermopen here. Now, we're nowhere near tenderness. There's resistance. But let's see, that temp right there is showing, you can see that, 172. Let's see where this is right here. 177, but there's good resistance right here still. So a variety of temperatures. We don't have the bark development that normally I'd want, but the goal here is juicy, tender beef for barbecue beef sandwiches. So we're gonna wrap these. First thing I wanna do is get some onions and garlic in here. These are just rough chopped pieces of garlic and onion. Gonna help build some flavor in the sauce. We're gonna cram our chuck roasts in here. 2 are gonna go in this foil pan, as I mentioned, and 1 is gonna be wrapped separately. Now, because this is a barbecue beef sandwich, I wanna get some of that barbecue sauce flavor in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add maybe 6 ounces of just a regular barbecue sauce. This is just a Hunt's barbecue sauce. Pick your favorite. And you notice I'm not putting it on top of the chuck roast, I'm squirting it around it. Now I'm gonna add some beef broth, and this is just, I don't know, 2 or 3 cups. I'm gonna double cover this with foil. Want a nice tight seal. All right, let's get our other chuck out here and wrap it in some foil. For this chuck roast, I'm not adding any barbecue sauce, just a little bit of beef broth. All right, let's get everybody back on the PBC. Want to get my temp probe out of here? Don't need it anymore. Let's get our hanging rods back in. Get our lid back on. I'm just going to let these go. We'll come back out here and check them in about 2 hours. All right, we have been going 3 hours, not 2. I ended up on a phone call with a buddy, Mike from Everyday Barbecue. Thanks for calling. We had a good chat, and we were probably gonna have to go that extra hour anyway just to get it really tender. So now let's check and see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check the chuck roast that's wrapped in the foil, not in the foil pans, because if this one's tender, these are tender. Let's see. I'm gonna try not to go through the bottom, just through the top layers of foil. Oh, that is feeling tender. I don't know if you can see it. Our internal temp on that is showing 212 degrees. So yeah, we are tender here. I'm gonna go ahead and get these off, get these inside. They're gonna sit and rest for an hour. And then we're gonna move on to making our barbecue beef sandwiches. All right, here are 2 of our chuck roasts. The third one, as I said, is for something else. That's wrapped up and gone already. But here we go, and they actually have a really nice color. I really didn't get any bark development because these cook so quickly. These went just a little over an hour, and then they were wrapped, and ended up being wrapped for 3 hours and then resting for an hour. So a total of about a 5-hour process here, which is not bad for chuck roast. A larger chuck roast, generally I find they're gonna take at least 5 hours just out on the smoker. But this is still warm after resting for an hour, and now it is time to shred this for our barbecue beef sandwiches. And I could use lots of different things, but I'm just gonna go in with my hands because it's pretty tender. I mean, look at this. It is just pulling apart like pulled pork. This is terrific and really juicy still if you look at that. I hope you can see that. Tons of juice still in here. Look at that. Good fat content with chuck roast, which is nice. At the end of this, you're gonna have a juicy piece of meat and just, oh, look at that. This is some of the best pulled chuck roast I've done. This just came out terrific. And honestly, I think it might have been because went a little beyond even what I normally do. I mean, one of them temped at 212 degrees. Normally, I will stop when they probe tender, and they're somewhere usually around 203 then. So taking it almost 10 degrees beyond that, we didn't lose any of the moisture, and it just looks terrific. and super tender. So I may try that again next time. And there's probably a couple little pieces of onion or garlic mixed in there too, even though I didn't really add that into this mix. What I'm gonna do right now is add some of the juice back that came off of this. Now I took the juice, ran it through a fat separator. All that does is allow the fat to go to the top and allow you to drain the juices out the bottom without getting the fat. To that I added about a 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce, mixed that together, and we're gonna add some of that back into here so we get some extra juice, some extra flavor. I'm just gonna sprinkle some in here. This is basically a very flavorful, thinned out barbecue sauce right now. Perfect for barbecue beef sandwiches. Just gonna get back in here and mix it up again. And if you have any big pieces of fat you find, just go ahead and pull those out. But this is looking good. All right, let's build some barbecue beef sandwiches. All right, I have a Kaiser roll that I toasted here, just put it on my griddle on the stove, just give it a light toast. We're gonna go ahead and pile some of our barbecue beef on here. Now, if you wanna add more sauce to something like this, go ahead. I think I've got enough sauce on this for me. Already kind of built into the meat here, but we're gonna pile this on. Now I'm gonna put some of that pepper horseradish mayo on here. I could just spread it on the bun if I wanted to, the top bun, but you know, I just want to dollop it on here. And if we get some on the cutting board, so what? Next, I'm going to put some sliced dill pickles. Just a few there. Finally, some pickled red onions. I love these things. Now, you can make these yourself if you want to, but I just buy these. Finally, we're going to top this bad boy. There we go, our smoked chuck roast barbecue beef sandwich. I've been waiting hours and hours and hours to try this. It's time to taste. All right, here we go. I'm not gonna cut it in half or anything, I'm just gonna dive in. Oh man. I know when I'm tasting, I usually try to break down the components, like, oh, I can taste this, this is good, this is good. I don't know how I do that here. This is just awesome, the whole thing together. It's just like a big punch of flavor in the mouth. I am getting a nice hit of that horseradish pepper mayo or pepper horseradish mayo. That is such a nice topping for this. Now you can do anything you want, but I really like that. It has that combination of bite and freshness to it. Didn't have to wait 8 or 9 hours for this one today. Small chuck roast for the win. I would definitely do this again. So if you've never smoked chuck roast, give it a try. I always say that. It's like brisket, but it costs a lot less. It's not usually an all-day affair. And if you let it go to this stage where it's this tender, where you can pull it, you can make some amazing barbecue beef sandwiches with your favorite toppings.